Many dead bodies with 4 persons alive have been reportedly pulled out from river after a commercial plane with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board flying from Wichita Airport in Kansas City to Washington, D.C. had a collision with a military helicopter midair while the jet was descending to land at Reagan National Airport in Arlington, Virginia. The collision caused both aircraft to fall or crash into Potomac River in Virginia state that borders Maryland and Washington, D.C. in the United States of America, USA on Wednesday night. As at the time of filing in this report on Thursday afternoon, more rescue boats were seen inside the Potomac River with more than 300 rescue team members who continued to search for survivors, and the small passengers plane had been pulled out of the river. Local media reported that at least 18 bodies had been recovered as of 12:30 a.m. Thursday, and there are 3 debris fields from the crash, police reportedly told newsmen. The U.S. Black Hawk military helicopter was said to be in training when it had a collision with Flight 5342 that had 64 people on board. Fatalities have been confirmed, and law enforcement and rescue teams are on site, according to live footage published by Reuters on its Facebook handle on Thursday afternoon. An Earthcam captured footage of the collision where the passenger's jet and the military helicopter exploded with a ball fire before both fell into the river, as seen in the video footage. All takeoffs and landings at Reagan National Airport are currently paused, according to the airport authorities. 64 people aboard the passenger jet, American Airlines says, and 3 soldiers aboard the helicopter, a U.S. official said. Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas said, as reported by Reuters, that it's really hard when you lose probably over 60 Kansans simultaneously. And I don't want to forget the pilots and the flight attendants. When one person dies, it's a tragedy, but when many people die, it's an unbearable sorrow. It's a heartbreak beyond measure. Jack Potter, president of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, it's a very difficult situation out there with the cold. It's very dark, but there are numerous boats out there. There are dive teams out there. John Donnelly, Fire and EMS Chief, Washington, D.C., at 8:58, the first units arrived on the scene and found an aircraft in the water and began rescue operations. This incident has grown. There's currently about 300 responders working. It's a highly complex operation. The conditions out there are extremely rough for the responders. It's cold. They are dealing with relatively windy conditions. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says he spoke to President Trump, and his department would offer full support to those on the ground. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, they are working diligently in very dark and cold conditions, cold water, to execute this rescue operation. CBS News reported that at least 18 bodies have been recovered so far, citing a police official. 2 sources told Reuters multiple bodies had been pulled from the water. Police said multiple agencies were involved in a search and rescue operation in the Potomac River, which borders the airport. Dozens of police, ambulance and rescue units, some ferrying boats, staged along the river and raced to positions along the tarmac of Reagan Airport. Live TV images showed several boats in the water, flashing blue and red lights. The airport said late on Wednesday that all takeoffs and landings had been halted as emergency personnel responded to an aircraft incident. The U.S. Army said in a statement that it could confirmed that the aircraft involved in tonight's incident was an Army UH-60 helicopter out of Fort Beaver, Virginia. Airwave camera shot from the Kennedy Center in Washington showed an explosion mid-air across the Potomac about 8:47 p.m. or 1:47 GMT, with an aircraft in flames falling rapidly, according to Reuters. There is now an active rescue operation underway at the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. after a passenger plane operated by American Airlines collided midday with a Black Hawk helicopter while trying to land. CBS News, Chris Van Cleve reports that this is the first commercial airline crash in the United States since a regional flight crashed in Buffalo, New York in 2009. This was an unparalleled period of aviation safety that appears to have come to an end tonight, Van Cleve said. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump is monitoring rescue operations of the Potomac plane crash between a military Black Hawk helicopter and a regional jet. Over 40 persons have been reported dead in a stampede that occurred early morning night on Wednesday at Maha Kumbh Mela, a Hindu religious festival that holds once in 12 years, that is touted to be the largest human gathering in the world, with over 100 million people estimated to have gathered to bathe in the holy river waters in India. International news agencies reported that nearly 40 people were killed in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh on Wednesday and several others injured in a pre-dawn or early morning night stampede at the Maha Kumbh Mela. According to residents, the Maha Kumbh Mela takes place every 12 years in the Indian city of Prayagraj, about 90 miles west of the holy city of Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, when an estimated 100 million people gather to bathe in holy river waters at the confluence of the Ganges, the Yamuna and the Saraswati rivers. It was gathered that a large number of people began descending upon Prayagraj on Tuesday evening as the most auspicious day of the festival, which saw almost 200 million attendees in its first 2 weeks visited the city for the Hindu festival. Reuters reported that the stampede occurred between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. on Wednesday as tens of millions gathered at the confluence of holy rivers in Prayagraj city to take a holy dip in the waters on the festival's most auspicious day. The stampede occurred when several devotees tried to jump the barricades put up to manage the crowds during the ascetics' holy dip, officials said. Some witnesses spoke of roads to the water being closed, bringing the large crowd to a standstill and causing some people to collapse due to suffocation, while others began pushing, pulling, and climbing over them in an effort to escape, according to Reuters. At least nearly 40 people were confirmed dead and several others injured in a crowd crush at the Maha Kumbh Mela in northern India, as tens of millions gathered to take the holy dip on the most auspicious day of the 6-week Hindu festival. We learned that India officials deployed a special crisis unit for rescue efforts, while Prime Minister Narendra Modi directed authorities to ensure relief measures. Drone footage posted online captured massive crowds as tens of millions of Hindus arrived to take ritual baths in the sacred rivers. Authorities have confirmed 40 deaths, with the toll expected to rise as many victims remain unidentified. Witnesses described scenes of chaos as people were crushed and trampled in the overwhelming surge toward the riverbanks, according to media reporters at the scene of the event. Some media reported that the tragedy underscores the immense scale of the festival, which was anticipated to attract over 100 million people, with more than 50 million already partaking in the sacred ritual the day before. Despite enhanced security measures, including AI-powered surveillance and drones, the sheer number of people strained crowd control systems. This devastating incident serves as a stark reminder of the risks posed by such massive gatherings, with previous crowd-related fatalities at similar events in India. Reuters also reported that more than 57 million people had taken a dip by 4 p.m. local time on Wed alone, officials said, and although the situation was eventually brought under control, the crowd remained massive. Additional security has been deployed, including a special police unit trained to manage crisis situations, and police are regulating entry into the city to control the crowd. Authorities also streamlined the rituals on Wednesday, facilitating dips for devotees first, with ascetics starting their processions, which took place on a smaller scale than planned, only after the number of other attendees had come down. Uttar Pradesh CM Yogi Adityanath in a video statement said, within some time of the incident, a green corridor was created and injured were rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, these deaths have happened. On all these issues, questions will be raised. The injured who have been discharged have left with their family members. This was the main snan of Kumbh, and due to immense pressure, large number of devotees in Prayagraj roads were choked. The administration was making attempts since last night to clear those routes. After this incident, Akaras postponed the Amrit Snan there, on the request of the Mela administration, which was supposed to begin at 4 a.m. Amrit Snan began in the afternoon, in which all the Akaras participated in it. News network also reported that authorities have built a gigantic tent city on the banks of the rivers to accommodate the millions of pilgrims and tourists attending the festival, equipped with 3,000 kitchens, 150,000 toilets, roads, electricity, water, communication towers and 11 hospitals, according to the Associated Press. Local media reported that an estimated 50,000 security personnel are also stationed in the city to help keep the peace as well as manage the tens of millions of people in the crowds. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the incident extremely sad and extended his condolences to those affected. My deepest condolences to the devotees who have lost their loved ones. Along with this, I wish for the speedy recovery of all the injured, Modi said in a post on X. Modi added that he is in touch with his chief minister and other related authorities regarding the incident. Over 1,200 men of the Armed Forces of Democratic Republic of Congo have ceded or surrendered Goma, the country's largest city, to M23 rebels, with DRC military uniforms flooding the streets after they pulled off the army attires and took refuge at UN peacekeeping military base, leaving South Africa soldiers to continue to fight on. But South African military formation in Congo on Tuesday issued a statement denying that its men did not surrender to M23 rebels, insisting that the white flag hoisted by one of his soldiers on Monday during heavy gun battle with the rebels was normal military tradition for both sides to cease fire to enable the South Africa troops passage to receive medical supply and as well give room to the M23 rebels the opportunity to rescue their men injured in front of the South Africa military base near Goma Airport. This, as thousands of pro-government protesters attacked and burned some portions of US, French, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and other foreign embassies in Kinshasa. It was gathered that protesters burned tires and threw stones in front of the U.S. Embassy's main compound, according to local news reports, and breached the site of a new embassy building that is under construction, according to an American official in Kinshasa who spoke on condition of anonymity to preserve staff safety. The site was later secured and no one was injured, the official said, as reported by the New York Times. Reuters reported that Goma residents and UN sources said dozens of troops had surrendered, but some soldiers and pro-government militiamen were holding out. People in several neighborhoods reported small arms fire and some loud explosions on Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, several diplomatic and security sources said the M23 rebels had taken full control of the airport, putting them in charge of a vital link to the outside world. According to Reuters, M23 is the latest in a string of ethnic Tutsi-led, Rwandan-backed insurgencies that have brought tumult to Congo since the aftermath of the genocide in Rwanda 30 years ago, when Hutu extremists killed Tutsis and moderate Hutus, and then were toppled by the Tutsi-led forces that still govern Rwanda. Rwanda says some of the ousted perpetrators have been sheltering in Congo since the genocide, forming militias with alliances with the Congolese government, and pose a threat to Congolese Tutsis and Rwanda itself. Congo rejects Rwanda's complaints, and says Rwanda has used its proxy militias to control and loot lucrative minerals such as coltan, which is used in smartphones. Sky News reporter Yosra Elbagia witnessed rebels taking over Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo while Congolese forces surrendered their uniforms, reported with a video showing the DRC soldiers pulling off their military uniforms and dropping them at a section of the road in Goma. Furious protesters stormed the U.S. Embassy in Kinshasa, chanting anti-imperialist slogans and setting fires, with some visuals showing large crowds attempting to breach the embassy's logistical center. Also in the Congolese capital Kinshasa, which is about 1,600 kilometers, 1,000 miles, west of Goma, protesters attacked a UN compound and embassies including those of Rwanda, Uganda, France and the United States, expressing anger at what they said was foreign interference or inactions that enabled M23 rebels to be able to take control of Goma. Looters ransacked the embassy of Kenya, according to local media and videos from residents in the capital city. Software development. M23 spokesperson Willie Angoma was seen in Goma, accompanied by his guards after M23 rebels have taken control of Goma International Airport. As reports indicate, government soldiers have surrendered and sought refuge at the city's UN base. Security forces later responded to attacks targeting Ugandan, Rwandan, American, Kenyan, and French embassies as protesters in Kinshasa stormed these diplomatic buildings, accusing them of supporting M23 rebels who are currently in control in the city of Goma. The sound of gunfire could be heard in the capital of North Kivu province in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as dozens of M23 rebel fighters rode on the back of trucks in social media video verified and published by Reuters on Tuesday. Software development. In Goma, armed men could also be seen running across a road amid a fierce gunfight. Dead bodies were scattered in the streets of the city, and hospitals were overwhelmed with patients with gunshot and shrapnel wounds. A day after the rebels marched into Goma, the biggest city in eastern DRC, the UN and other aid agencies said on Tuesday. The Red Cross said that one of its hospitals had received over 100 patients within 24 hours with head wounds and chest trauma from mortars and shrapnel. M23 rebels entered Goma on Monday in a major escalation of a 3-decade conflict. They were continuing to face pockets of resistance from few army units and their backers. Meanwhile, more than 100 FARDC soldiers, FDLR and Wazalendo who fled to Rwanda from Goma in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo are being held in Rubavu district. The New Times news team who visited the site on Tuesday reported that some of them are being treated from injuries. Goma is a key location in the conflict-battered North Kivu province whose minerals are critical to much of the world's technology. Rebel groups have long fought over control of eastern Congo's mineral wealth, and the conflict has often pitted ethnic groups against one another, with civilians forced to flee their homes, according to local observers. South African National Defence Force, SANDF, said it has noted with concern the widespread circulation of a video on social media accompanied by misleading claims suggesting that SANDF forces surrendered to M23 rebels. We wish to set the record straight. The footage in question depicts a white flag raised, which is an outcome of discussion between the opposing fighting forces to agree on a truce to allow M23 to recover their dead in the vicinity of our base. This will also open the route for our troops to access medical facilities. This is common practice in any war. Let members of the public not be alarmed by a video clip and its meaning. The SANDF remains fully committed to its peacekeeping responsibilities under the United Nations Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The South African military formation in another press release on Tuesday confirmed that 3 of its soldiers were killed by M23 rebels during a heavy gun battle with the rebels around Goma Airport on Monday, adding that one of its soldiers who sustained injuries in previous days' fight with the M23 rebels have succumbed to the injuries or died, bringing the total numbers of South Africa soldiers killed in recent days in Goma to 13. Kenya President William Ruto, in a video broadcast on Monday, said, "The escalating deteriorating peace and security situation in the DRC is of grave concern. The humanitarian crisis is being exacerbated by ongoing military actions, including the closure of airspace in Goma. I call for the immediate and unconditional cessation of hostilities, emphasized the obligation of all parties to facilitate humanitarian access to affected populations and urged both sides to pursue peaceful means to resolve this tragic conflict. As chair of the EAC, I call on the parties to the Luanda process and my brothers, President Felix Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame, both of whom I have spoken to this evening, to heed the call for peace from the people of our region and the international community. After consulting the heads of state of EAC member states, we will convene an extraordinary summit in the next 48 hours to chart the way forward. The EAC stands ready to forge stronger collaboration with the African Union, Southern African Development Community and the international community in encouraging the warring parties to give priority to dialogue. According to New York Times, the United States on Tuesday advised U.S. nationals to leave the Democratic Republic of Congo on commercial flights after hundreds of protesters attacked several foreign embassies and a United Nations building in the capital, Kinshasa. Due to an increase in violence throughout the city of Kinshasa, the U.S. Embassy in Kinshasa advises U.S. citizens to shelter in place and then safely depart while commercial options are available, a security alert published on the embassy's website read. The embassy issued the notice at the end of a tumultuous day in Kinshasa, where the State Department reported violent protests at multiple U.S. government buildings. We had on Monday reported that thousands of prisoners at Munzenze prison facility in Goma, the capital city of North Kivu province in the Democratic Republic of Congo, may have set themselves free after M23 rebels took control of Goma early morning on Monday, with videos posted online showing civilians flooding back to Goma and welcoming the M23 rebels in a rousing manner. Earlier on Monday, we also reported that one of the most troubled countries in Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo government has begged civilian residents in the country to flood streets today, Monday the 27th of January 2025, just as M23 rebels are now in control of Goma, after killing the Congolese military commander, over 9 South Africa soldiers, a total of 12 UN peacekeepers, forcing other Congolese soldiers to surrender their weapons before the 3 a.m. Monday 2025 deadline set. We had earlier in the month reported that M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo early this year advanced and seized the town of Masisi. Same period, the Congolese government sent 172 death row prisoners to executioners, with 102 already confirmed executed, while the government kept mum on the third batch of 70 prisoners, including the May 19, 2024 37 coup plotters who were convicted and sentenced to death in September 2024, just as the country Minister of Justice, Constant Mutamba, threatened journalists with death penalty if they relayed the activities of armed group he described as
bringing you the news in a more digital way.